Hello, my fellow readers. It is February, and February at my library means blind date with a book. So every February, there is a grouping of wrapped books where, depending on the year, this has been changed a bit, but there'll be some kind of hint as to what the genre of the book is and maybe a little bit about what it's about. But you won't know the title until you bring it home and unwrap it and figure out who your date is. So I usually bypass it only because I have so much that I have to read, but this year I decided I'm going to pick up a blind date with a book, and actually not only one, but 3. So I went to the library, I took a look at what was there, and I chose 3. And let's check out what I checked out. I did 2 that were a little bit smaller and then one that's a little bit chunkier. I picked up this one because it says the genre is epic fantasy, which I love, and then it included the first line of the book. So enclosed within is a full accounting of the events that led up to the burning of the Capitol, which sounded familiar to me, and I was just intrigued enough to get it. So let's open and see what it is. So this is thankfully one I have not read yet, The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. So, yay! This is a quick little excerpt from the book. The crowd couldn't see the details, but I knew what he held: a silver hawk stained black from the salt air, a part of my soul trapped in metal. My geisha, I don't know if I said that right. He was right, I would cause no more trouble. Never again. Controlling a slave via geisha was as effective as it was terrible. A witch had summoned a demon, and that demon had ripped part of my soul away. I would do anything that the holder of my geisha asked of me, no matter how objectionable, no matter how repugnant. Obey or die. There was no choice. So yeah, this sounds very like high stakes and intriguing, and I will be adding it to my read list. And then of course, when I am done reading, I will check back in and rate my dates. The quick little description, just making sure it doesn't continue. Kieran grew up in the slums of Kor, a thief and a minstrel's son, raised on tales of long-lost princess and magnificent quests. Long-lost princes and magnificent quests. When he is claimed against his will as the missing son of a treasonous prince, Kieran finds himself at the mercy of his new family's ruthless power plays and political ambitions. Practically a prisoner, Kieran discovers that being a long-lost prince is nothing like what the storybooks have promised. The storybooks lied about a lot of other things too: dragons, demons, gods, and prophecies, true love, and how the hero always wins. Then again, maybe he isn't the hero after all, for Kieran is not destined to save the Empire. He's destined to destroy it. So yeah, this sounds right up my alley. I think I'm going to like it, and I will let you know how this one goes. Now let's see the other 2 I picked out. So this one's genre is just fiction, coming of age, which I do enjoy a lot of coming of age stories. And the first line is, a busy signal, that's all I hear again and again. So I hope I haven't read this one. It's very hard when you read as many things as I do to do these kind of things, because you may be attracted to a book that you already read, like who knows how long ago. So let us see. Please be something I haven't read. Oh, I didn't read this one. This is Beautiful Music. So, Michael Zadorian, I might not have said that right, but let's see what this is about. Set in early 1970s Detroit, a divided city still reeling from its violent race riot of 1967. Beautiful Music is the story of one young man's transformation through music. Danny Yezmeski, I don't know if I said that right either, is a husky pop radio loving loner balancing a dysfunctional home life with the sudden harsh realities of freshman year at a high school marked by racial turbulence. But after tragedy strikes the family, Danny's mother becomes increasingly erratic and angry about the seismic cultural shifts unfolding in her city and the world. As she tries to hold it together with the help of Librium, highballs, and breakfast cereal, Danny finds his own reason to carry on, rock and roll. In particular, the drum and guitar-heavy songs of local legends like the MC5 and Iggy Pop. In the vein of Nick Hornby and Tobias Wolff, yet with a style very much Zadorian's own. Beautiful music, there's tape over this, is a touching story about the power of music and its ability to save one's soul. So, all right, another potentially good choice. I'm excited about this one too. And again, I will let you know after I've done reading it what I think. But this has potential. This sounds really good. It doesn't look too long. Let's see. Just trying to see if this gets a little... I'm not spoiling the end. I just look for the number. So it's about 330 pages, 329 technically. So this should be very doable for me. And I'll let you know what I think. And finally, let's also hope this is new to me. This is a horror genre. And the first line of the book is, "I'm going to try to start at the beginning, even though I know you won't believe me." I was most worried about this one and me potentially having already read it because, one, I read a lot of horror. Two, the line seems really familiar to me. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's one that I kind of skipped over and didn't read yet, but let's find out. And I like the blind dates with the book because it's like a present to yourself. Even though when I'm done, I can just return these books, which is also fabulous. I love that the library does it because I don't have to spend money on books that I've potentially have already read. It's a win for me. I do not want to waste my money on something that I've already read, maybe even already owned. So this one is, actually one that I wanted to read, but didn't read this one. This is T. Kingfisher's The Twisted Ones. So I did read, which may not be in here. Because I think this might have been the first book. I did read another T. Kingfisher book, but not, I don't think it was this one. I'm like, should I double check? So I'm actually very excited about this because this was one of the books that I wanted to read. Yeah. Oh, I should probably just give a little synopsis. When Mouse's dad asks her to clean out her dead grandmother's house, she says yes. After all, how bad could it be? Answer, pretty bad. Grandma was a hoarder, and her house is packed to the gills with useless garbage. That would be horrors enough, but there's more. Mouse stumbles across her step-grandfather's journal, which at first seems to be the ravings of broken mind, until she encounters some of the terrifying things he described herself. Alone in the woods with her dog, Mouse has to confront a series of impossible terrors, because sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real, and they're looking for you, and if she doesn't face them head-on, she might not survive to tell the tale. See, I'm very excited about this because this has been on my TBR and I've put it off, but I'm going to read it now because it is one of my blind dates. This is about 300 and the author's note takes it that part. It's about 381 pages. So again, that's not too bad. Yeah. So after I get done with these three, I will let you know what I thought of them. I'm very excited for my choices. I like all of them and I cannot wait to get to read them. So you'll see me when I'm done reading. So I am back with my first blind date with a book, and the one I got through first was Beautiful Music. I actually was able to borrow an audiobook version. I figured that wasn't cheating because I got this one blind, but I thought having the audiobook would help me to get through it faster. And Yeah. So, Beautiful Music tells the story of Danny, and it is set during the 1970s in Detroit, and this is after the big 1967 race riot, and they're all still dealing with the repercussions of the race riot. For Danny, his mother has been dealing with more mental health issues because of it, and she's been more kind of hyper monitoring Danny, like where's he going, what's he doing, really wants him to just stay at home building his models, doesn't really want him getting out there because she's too afraid of what might happen to him if he's out. Me having said that the background was after the 1967 race riots in Detroit should alert you to the fact that this book will have discussions about racism and also thought processes that go with the characters, and sometimes coming to terms with maybe their own racist thoughts and decisions. And yeah, I liked that part of it. There's a big part that involves Danny's relationship to his father. His father's a big influence on Danny, and especially his dad's love of music. We end up, obviously this is beautiful music. The music that existed or was coming out becomes very interwoven with the story and with who Danny is. Like, he lives and breathes music. It's very important to him. He does make the decision within the book that, you know, being a disc jockey is something that he wants to pursue. He's really drawn to that. He practices with his voice and reading script and everything. He's doing his best to pursue it. He does become the morning announcements. Yeah, it's like second period or something. So he does do the morning announcement, has to pick little music clips that goes with his announcements, and is really passionate about that. But again, we see a bit of the racism or prejudice play a role in that aspect of his life too. Again, I don't want to get too into that because I think it's good to just read and perceive that. But yeah, I had actually, I saw this book and I was drawn to it, but did not check it out. So I'm glad this became one of my blind dates, and I think it was a successful read. There is a tragic event that strikes the family that impacts Danny and what he does and the decisions he makes and who he becomes, and it's part of the backbone of the story. I'm obviously not going to spoil it, but yeah, I had an excellent blind date with this. Was it my favorite ever? No, but it was a solid read, and I very much enjoy that. I would consider reading another book by Michael Zadorian. I have not, up to this date, read a book by Michael Zadorian, but I would definitely consider reading another one because I think there was a humanistic angle that I liked about the voice in the book, and be willing to try another one. Yep, so date number 1, all done. So I actually finished my second date last night, and that was The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. And this is the second T. Kingfisher book that I've read. The first one, I don't think the name will be in here because I think this was published before it, but anyway, it was the one that I deemed like the House of Leaves light edition. It had like the twisty kind of weird psychological aspects of House of Leaves, but there was also differences. But I did like the voice of that book. And I would say it's the same with this one. I liked the voice. I think T. Kingfisher gives good voice to the characters, which makes you want to follow them and see what's going to happen to them. This one tells the story of Mouse, who whose dad asks her to go down to her grandmother's house. Her grandmother has recently passed, and clear it out for him so they can prepare for sale. And he'll give her money for it. So, yeah, I don't remember why there was nothing better to do. Was it like after a big breakup and maybe Mouse is looking for a new direction? Oh, that's part of it. I think Mouse can work distantly because she works with like editing. So I think she can work remotely, so it doesn't matter. So she's like, yeah, it's fine. She gets to the house with her faithful dog, a coonhound, and starts trying to work through the thing. Discovers that her grandmother, who was a pretty terrible person, is a hoarder. And she has to clear out this hoarded house. And within her cleaning, ends up discovering this journal and other written pages by her step-grandfather, who had passed away years ago, and discovers that there might be something weird or sinister going on. And besides him, Cotgrave, besides him noting about how terrible his wife was, like miserable and doing things like taking his one, the green book, away from him and hiding it, she's just not pleasant. So he's trying to do what he can about this situation with these beings. So the one thing that will get quoted and really sets the scene for the rest of this tale of horror is, "I made faces like the faces on the rocks, and I twisted myself about like the twisted ones, and I laid down flat on the ground like the dead ones." This does come into play later with what happened, but yeah, suddenly after reading this and living in this home for a little while, trying to clear things out, she starts getting visited by this strange looking thing that almost looks like a deer, I believe, but with like the skull head is turned the other way. And her dog ends up leading her through a path in the woods that brings her to these rocks with faces and all the other events. And there's some kind of weird entities and things, and I don't want to give it all away, but it's this weird, I don't know if they would be perceived as like fairies. Throughout this, they're called either like they have a couple of different names. So I think it's the Holler People, or what they call them here, because this is set in, oh goodness, am I going to get it wrong? I think it's set in North Carolina. But it just, yeah. But there are these strange entities essentially come into play, and it's, what do they want? What are they doing? It was rather gripping to me. I liked to read it. I wanted to figure out what was going to happen, how it was going to resolve itself. You do know that some way Mouse and her dog make it out, because she kind of says it in the beginning. And she's narrating it like from having survived. But yeah, if you like good like folklore tales, that kind of darkness, I mean, you can like fairy stories as well, if they're like the dark tales of like stealing people away. Then this is sort of in that same vein. A little bit different in the way that the entities are, but yeah, it's that kind of dark, like folklore story that you might hear. So for me, it was perfect because I like this kind of story, and yeah, it was good horror for me. And if that seems up your alley, maybe you will want to take this on a date. So I only have one more book left, which is The Ruin of Kings, that I'm slowly getting through. That was a lot thicker. So I don't know when this video will be up. It might not make it until March because I'm working on that book. But yeah, so far my February has been fun with my nice blind dates. We've had a lot of fun together, but I only have one more to go. I will say, before I get to whenever I finish The Ruin of Kings and do the final thoughts on it, I will say that right now it's right up my alley. It's a great fantasy story. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So far, it's really great. I think, a little over 100 pages in, so I'm doing well on it, but I will give you my thoughts when I finally finish it. So until then, bye. And now I'm back with my thoughts on the final book, or I should say my final blind date, which was The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, which is a big old epic fantasy. And what's interesting about this book is the way it is told. So we actually follow the narration of events from two main characters, Karen and Talon. And in the background, there is kind of a commentator slash footnote character that I don't want to get too much into because I think it spoils part of this character and their role in the book. But it is definitely a story where you have to pay attention to what is happening. The two stories are from different points in the timeline of events that you're set at, and they do converge, and you do piece out how it all works together. But again, it's one where you definitely have to pay attention and kind of see the way that things are going in order to fully get the story. I did think the overall voice of this story was fun. I liked the way that it was narrated. I liked the wittiness, I think especially of Karen. Talon's a very interesting character, and that definitely comes into play within the book as well. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed my time with the story. I would say overall I had 3 successful dates. They were all really enjoyable reads that I would and do recommend to other people. I think especially for The Ruin of Kings, this is great for fantasy fans, especially epic fantasy fans. And if you like The Name of the Wind, this is a good one, probably right up your alley, especially like in the way that it's a narrative story. I think with this one, I would hesitate on recommending it as like a starting point, like an entry point for new people, newcomers to the fantasy genre. I don't think I would start off by going like, oh yeah, read this one. Because I do think there's a bit of getting used to fantasy, and also just because of the narrative style, like I would want them to be a little bit more experienced before jumping into this. But at the same time, I would say that if anything of this book sounds interesting, then yeah, go ahead and pick it up, because, you know, if you have an interest in it, that might get you through it regardless. Who am I to say whether or not you're prepared, I guess, to read this book? It just probably wouldn't be, you know, the first book that jumped into my mind if somebody was like, I want to try fantasy. Like, I wouldn't necessarily jump to this book. However, if you're watching this video and you think that the book sounds interesting, then yeah, go ahead and pick it up, because that's what really matters, is that you sound intrigued by this book. Did find out that I was saying Gish correctly, because I did, as well as having this, I got the audiobook to help me get through it. And yeah, also in the back, there's a portion that, like, see if I can find it, that goes over some of the words in here. So like Gish is there. So I already read the synopsis on the back, so I don't know much more to describe about this, because I think it would spoil a lot of the story. In general, yes, this is a story about like hidden family lines and family rights, and the struggle for power and control. And yeah, that's just the most important part. Is it's really like a power play book. It's people trying to get to the top and how to best achieve that. And I thought that the way in which it did that, especially through the different magic systems, like the whole fact that you can gain control of a person's self through like the geisha, I thought that was really intriguing and a good magic system. I liked it. Also, there was dragons. I like that. I probably will go on with this series. I think there's 5 books total for this series, at least presently. I don't know if there's going to be more. I didn't check that, but there's a lot more to go. So I probably will slowly try to get into the rest of the series, even though I'm working on a bunch of other series, like trying to get through the rest of the Wheel of Time and the Witcher series, and finishing Outlander. So I have some like huge series that I am currently reading, so it might take a while to get to the rest of this, but I was intrigued enough by the events and the characters to want to do that. So yeah, I'll probably be continuing. It was a good February. Probably by the time this video goes up, not even probably, I know, because I know my schedule, this won't go up until March. So I started in February, but I'm ending in March. You know, it took a while to get through 3 books, and as well as my other books that I was doing, and then getting the time to comment on them. So yeah, it's still February as I'm filming this, but I know just because of my schedule that it won't be up until March. So I hope you all had a fabulous February and maybe some great blind dates. That is it for this video. Until next time, bye.